Hello, today I'm reading you The Alphabet by Eley Williams. It's from Atrib and Other Stories. The Alphabet. Or love letters. Or writing love letters before I forget how to use them. Or these miserable loops look so much better on paper than in practice. The plot of this is not and will not be obvious. I'm pretending that this is not important. It is quite likely that I have lost it anyway. The plot. Related. Where are my glasses? For some reason, I find that I say, glasses? Glasses? In an authoritative way, while searching for them, it seems more likely that I shall find them, or that I will somehow invoke them into being. This is a strategy that does not work for finding one's dignity, nor for finding you, but glasses, possibly. Announcing my intention to find them at least conveys a sense of control as I dither around picking up ornaments and looking under curtains. There is a paper published online that sets out this thesis, and I shall quote it aloud to make it real. Speech can alter ongoing cognitive and even perceptual processing in non-trivial ways, effectively allowing one to concentrate better. Say it ain't so, announce with an ounce of courage and conviction, and the world is the world's yours for the mistaking. For what it's worth, concentrating, I can say that you altered me in non-trivial ways. The pursuit was anything but trivial, at least. I remember that. Glasses? I completely lost it. The plot, not the glasses, they're only mislaid, about 2 weeks ago, around the same time that I mislaid you. If you were here, you would make a filthy joke about my use of that word, about you being mislaid. Scratch that, then. Screw it, or unscrew that word out of place. 2 weeks ago is when I lost it, the plot, round about the same time that you were not mislaid by me, but were misplaced. When you misplaced me. 2 weeks ago is when we ceased to converge by the bedside table, beneath the sofa, by the fridge. I have realized with some embarrassment that the reason I could not find them is, of course, because I am wearing my glasses. This is like that time someone, I am being coy, I mean you, complimented my eyes, and suddenly I wished that I could pop them out onto your palm and say, hey, damn right, they're the best thing about me. Not, functionally, of course, hence the glasses, but in terms of form. Want to swap? I want to see you in them, which would, of course, be impossible for 3 reasons and horrible for about 12. But what was I saying? Even though I now know the whereabouts of my glasses, the feeling of lack remains. I have lost something else, so here I must remain, poised to retrieve. If I say something else, in an authoritative way, perhaps it is more likely that I will find it, whatever it might be. We looked up my condition after coming home from the doctor's the first time, where it had been explained to us in a pale room with a ticking light. We had looked the word up in the dictionary. I did not tell you, but I had imagined using my plucked-out eye's optic nerve as a bookmark to save the definition's place. We also searched online to make sure that our internet history was keeping up with our life events. I spelt the word with an F at first, and sighing, you took control of the keyboard. A-P-H-A-S-I-A, you typed. It required both of your hands in the same way that origami might, or the act of unwrapping a parcel. We browsed. Aphasia, a disturbance of the comprehension and formulation of language caused by dysfunction in specific brain regions. You can't spell aphrodisiac without aphasia, you said later, trying to make a filthy joke out of it and holding me. Yes, you can, I said into your jumper after a while. This gave me time to work it out. Well, I can't, you had said, not letting go. And I, not giving up, had said, you'd have a spare A. And give me an A, you had said in your cheerleader voice. I cannot remember what happened next. I probably did give you something. After all, your innuendo-led ears would probably not let me get away without giving you one, but it is impossible to recall. I have forgotten, basically, and now I have misplaced you. I have swept so many words under my tongue and out of the porches of my ear, out of sight and out of mind. Over the years, your ears must have become spoked and fairly bristling with my X's and K's and T's and teasing. The plot. Yes, the condition of its being lost. I have a great deal of nostalgia for having the plot and the full vocabulary. Both have been lost gradually, along with the, marbles. My marbles, specifically. We have come to specific marbles. I have lost it. I have lost my marbles, and I have lost the plot. The holy trinity of losing. I have lost my faith in one bank. Thank you, my mate. Maybe the plot was connected with my marbles in some way. Maybe one plays marbles on a plot. Plot being synonymous with pitch or field or court. I lost them all long ago is what's important. 2 weeks ago, you took my marbles and you and I appear to have mislaid the plot. In the film of the musical of the play, in Hartford, Hereford and Hampshire hurricanes hardly ever happened, but Eliza Doolittle was fed marbles in order to improve her diction, not to lose a good thing she had going, and no doubt if you were here you would make a dirty joke about that word too. I shall shun diction then, a cunning stunt. Spoonerisms, tongue twisters. I remember that you could make those words affectionate and filthy as soon as you found them, and me in close confines. One cannot spell eyes without having to also spell yes. This was also especially the case with you and with yours. Incidentally, my dictionary is definitely getting smaller. This might be because I am moving away from it, or because it is shriveling. What's your favourite word? You asked me on our first date. I said something obvious like pamphlet. Excellent, you had said. You may have even clapped. Favourite letter? You continued without offering your own answer. You tended to take charge like that. A waiter was sizing up your shoes and handing you the bill. I was trying to seem interesting, so I replied, Q. Q, you echoed, somewhat accusingly, as you pressed your PIN code into the machine. Yes. Q needs you to be useful, you had said, and I remember that I rolled my eyes out of my head and you winked in a pantomime way and touched my wrist with your hand. And yours? I think I asked. I must have done. I should have. I hope I did. I consider favourite letters to be a better indicator of personality than star signs, you had said. And I had thought, oh great, this person's a massive weirdo and is going to try and inculcate me into Reiki practising, cheesecloth wearing, bewhiskered culture sect, because I used to use words like inculcate without thinking twice, even though I knew at the time that it was inadvised. But by God, you were charming, said the other half of my brain. Cult leaders often are, replied the first half. Go atrophy on a stalk, said the second half, and it did, I think. Thank goodness. You had evaded my question. I couldn't help but notice. A is a snapped Eiffel Tower, the shape of it. If you were interested in A as a letter, I'd assume that you were only interested in half-finishing projects, you said. Is that right? H is for rugby fans and penalties. F and E and Y are all prongs. And prongs are for stabbing at something, I thought. Letters as stabs in the dark. I do not know why you picked these letters as examples. You are misspelling the alphabet. What does Q imply? You had cocked your head as if the answer might slide out of your ear onto the table. Uppercase or lowercase? You asked gravely. That would be telling, I said, pretending that I knew how to flirt. It stands for questions often, doesn't it? You said, and I'm sure that I did not know how to answer. We went to a bar. Q was your first answer, you said, very close to my face. You were slightly drunk by this point and enjoying the sound of your own voice. I was enjoying the sound of your own voice too. Queuing, lining them up, very British. Q is the old man in James Bond, you went on. No, the young man, the lovely whippety one. Q is for questions, you said again. And then you had said something about liking a challenge. And 4 years later, after the diagnosis, you were putting posters and printouts up around the flat. Posters and labels. This is a kettle, on the kettle. These are mousetraps, on the mousetraps. I am your one and only, and this joke only works because of a song you like, on a badge that you wore around the place. I have a children's laminated alphabet poster on my wall. There is a cartoon apple on it, and a ball, and a large yellow cat. The grossly stunted Eiffel Tower shape of A, the heedless, limbless woman's body of B, C's upset urn and the taut bow of D. The snapped trident head of E further snapped to form F. An empty workman's clamp, G. The rugby goal of H. There I am next to it, standing tall like something at stake. The following long shadow cast by the I some time past noon makes the J. What is next? K is the point of an arrow smacking into a trunk, while L is a candle holder where the flame has been snuffed out. M and N are always claimed by my memory of your knuckles, and O invariably is your surprise, or you're singing unabashed in our garden when you think that no one is at home. Remaining in the garden, the letter P is cuckoo spit on the length of a chive, cooling in the dew dawn. Q is a monocle, discarded. We always had time for eccentricity. We watched a battered VHS of My Fair Lady and drank whenever a word game presented itself. R is a thrown magnifying glass embedded in a wall. To say that S is a snake is perhaps easy pickings, but true. My occasional lisp a snake in the grass. I lisp when hurried or under stress. What's the evolutionary point in that? I resent the S especially. Atlas seen cruciform from the front, the world removed from his shoulders, T. Then U comes as a grin, grossly extended, or an empty jar. If there were 40, we would be ready for fairyland thieves, and because you ruin things with beautiful practicality, let's line up an amphora with the lip smashed clean away by vandals, V. 2 such amphorae, W. The next letter marks the spot. A kiss, or something like the waiter's brace suspenders against his fresh white shirt back. X. Pentecostal or horrified up-thrust arms in Y as we finally discover the serpent Z A cruel child has broken the spine of an S. Lying in bed and looking at the ceiling, I think that there can be no time for yellow cats or balls or apples when there is all this to remember and bear in mind. Aphasia is now an autocomplete on my laptop's search field. Good thing there's a word for it, you had said, and my face was in your jumper again. To fill the empty kitchen, I turned to things like radios. Love songs will try and make you believe that one word is the hardest and that 3 particular words are the most important, and I'm sure that those 3 will be the last to leave me. In truth, it is impossible to place a bet on which word will be the next to go. At least I think it will be nothing to do with scansion or prosody. Perhaps it is all to do with the way a mouth moves. That your mouth moved in the kitchen, and that I can remember this clearly. That one's speaking mouth can be form over function, as each word that I can remember peels away, or falls away, or does whatever you would like to call it. What's your favourite letter? You had asked me 4 years after the first time, where we were sitting in bed reading the Sunday papers, as if I still knew how that worked. Oh, I said. Oh? You repeated. No, M? No, I, you had said, and then you reached over and pressed my nose to let me know you were only teasing. I think that I clicked my fingers in irritation and said, I'll get it eventually. And you had said, Oi, you can bet you will get it eventually, because you cannot help yourself, your filthiness, I had said. That's not funny. And you said, you don't know what funny means anymore. And you looked at me, knowing or hoping that I would laugh. And I did. And you should never start sentences like that, I know, but what's a sentence really, if not time spent alone? The medical pamphlets do not state it, and the literature does not concentrate on it, but the only 2 things that I have ever been scared to lose are you, and more so and originally, my mind. There we have it. The day that I forgot the word for a hairbrush was when you first looked concerned. I held the hairbrush in front of me and trialled scalp tufter after a few seconds of concentration. You had frowned. You had cocked your head in the way that you do. And from then on, it became, like, easier, but the opposite. Forgetting hairbrush became forgetting our address, became forgetting dates, became figmenting, became fragmenting, became I remembered your beautiful, beautiful face, but I could not quite place it. My brain had unpinned you without me wanting it to, and now you have gone. It is not your fault, or whatever the word is. The heaviest book in the house is the dictionary. I know, because to fill my days I went around with a scale and measured each one to learn the weight of words. The dictionary is so heavy that my hand hurts even if I brace myself when I take it down from its shelf. You used to press flowers between its pages. I didn't know that at the time, or if I did, I overlooked it. But I do not think I would have overlooked such a thing. The petals that I find do not smell of anything in particular. They are brittle. The word friable comes to mind, and I look it up at once. The new to me petals fall out occasionally into my lap when I'm checking myself or checking up on myself. Today there are just 5 that fall from the pages, 3 on my leg and 2 on the floor. They are your delicate, dirty jokes I found increasingly hard to understand. I can only imagine that their colour has not changed since the time you placed them there. As I say, the dictionary seems smaller in my hands, but somehow grows heavier even as my speech bubbles grow thinner and more gauzy above my head. I want to be able to tell you that the petals are as light-heavy as full stops. I want to be able to tell you that I miss you, and that the way you had with me, and the way you had with all the words that, at the time, I had for you. That was The Alphabet by Eley Williams. It's a very, very moving story. I find it very emotional. It always brings a tear to my eye. I would like you to share with me how you reacted to the story, and what you think and what you feel this story is about. What is the focus of this story? What's the main theme of the story? And what feelings, what emotions does this story particularly touch in you? And finally, if you'd like to play with me a little bit, can you think of a word, a particular word that is important to you? And can you let me know how you go about choosing that word? Thank you for listening.